This morning, from commoner to queen, Australian-born Mary Donaldson ascends the Danish throne. Foreign Minister Penny Wong's plan for peace as she travels to the Middle East. Sydney soaked. Just how much rain fell overnight as emergency services assess the damage. And the Iceland volcano spewing lava towards a fishing town, marking the 5th time in just 2 years.
This is 7 News with Chris Weason.
Good morning. Almost a quarter century since that chance meeting in a Sydney pub, Australian-born Mary Donaldson has completed her transformation from commoner to queen. 150,000 well-wishers packed the grounds of Copenhagen's Christiansborg Castle to welcome Denmark's new king and queen. A moment in history for Danes and Australians.
A new Danish reign sealed with a kiss. And a glimpse into the future. Streets lined by a sea of red flags ready to witness history. Queen Margrethe II leaving Christiansborg Palace flanked by royal guards, preparing for the final act of her reign. A dignified handover fit for the 83-year-old monarch, the longest reigning in Europe. The Danish Queen, the first to sign the Declaration of Abdication in over 900 years. The stroke of a pen ending her 5-decade reign and ushering in a new era. Her son becoming King Frederick X. Meanwhile, outside, crowds braved the cold to catch the first glimpse of the new monarch. On the hour, the doors of the Christiansborg Palace balcony swung open, a cheer erupting from the crowd as out stepped their new king. Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen giving the proclamation, welcomed by the Danish people with open arms. Hurrah! Hurrah! Before King Frederick addressed his people for the first time and revealing the new royal motto, United, Committed for the Kingdom of Denmark, and then joined by his queen, our Mary. The Aussie-born royal wearing a white dress adorned with the Royal Order of Queen Margrethe. The royal couple joined by the new Crown Prince before sealing their accession with a kiss, sending the already excited crowd into a frenzy. The King and Queen all smiled as they travelled back home to the Amalienborg Palace, waving to well-wishers. Hundreds of thousands lining the streets, some taking to rooftops to be a part of history. So a spectacular day across Copenhagen, capped off this evening by the biggest ever fireworks display over the Danish capital from the Tivoli Gardens. A great way to end what has been a big day for this country and also for this family. Frederick, Mary and their 4 teenage children spending the night back here at Amalienborg Palace. Life's going to change for all of them in the days, weeks and years ahead.
Hugh Whitfield there for us in Copenhagen. Foreign Minister Penny Wong has departed for Israel as Middle East tensions reach new heights. While she says Australia isn't a central player in the region, she hopes to advocate for a pathway out of the conflict. Here's Ashley Mullaney.
Penny Wong's visit to Israel will be the first by an Australian foreign minister since 2016 and comes at a time of rising tension in the Middle East. Senator Wong departed Adelaide this morning. First stop Jordan for high-level meetings, then Israel. She'll be meeting with her Israeli counterparts and survivors of the October 7 Hamas attack, although it's understood she will not be visiting the border towns where the atrocities were carried out. She will also be visiting Palestinians in the West Bank, and as war continues in Gaza, she says this trip will be about advocating for a pathway out of the conflict.
I will be focusing on advocating Australia's position our priority on international humanitarian assistance, our priority on international humanitarian law.
Senator Wong's visit comes as Israel marks 100 days since the Hamas attacks. Israel pleading for Australian and international support to get more than 100 hostages still being held captive safely home. The challenge for the West containing this conflict. The UK saying today it is not ruling out further joint strikes with the US on Yemen's Houthis that have continued to strike ships in the Red Sea.
Sydney has suffered another summer soaking, the wet weather causing chaos on roads and cutting off power to homes in the northern suburbs. As Angelique Opie reports, experts warn it's just the start of what's to come.
Well, good morning. Sydney had quite the drenching overnight. Some suburbs are expected to hit 100 millimetres of rain in the past 24 hours. Terry Hills recorded 86 millimetres of rain. At Richmond, 83. At Sydney Olympic Park, 43. Penrith, 40. And at Sydney CBD, 32. These recordings at 8 a.m. this morning. Now, overnight, there were significant power outages at suburbs including Avalon on Sydney's northern beaches. And one truck driver was actually caught in wet weather on Lane Cove Road at West Pymble. It jackknifed. Luckily, that truck driver walked away unscathed, but delays are expected to continue for the rest of the day. The Weather Bureau says there is more rain to come, so drivers are being urged to keep an eye out on traffic updates as they come to hand.
Despite growing community concerns about Australia Day, new polling shows most Australians still want to celebrate on January 26. We're live to Canberra and political reporter Rob Scott. Rob, talk us through the results.
Well, Chris, more than 1,000 people were surveyed by the Institute of Public Affairs, and the poll found less than 1 in 5 Australians want to change the date of our National Day. The majority, that's 63%, want to keep Australia Day on January 26. The only group it was controversial among was 18 to 24-year-olds, with just 42% approving of the date. The greatest support came from those over 55, with 71% saying the date should stay the same. Now, these results come after Peter Dutton was accused of stoking a culture war when he called for a boycott of Woolworths stores for axing Australia Day merchandise. Now, early this morning, that was taken to the absolute extreme, with a Woolies store in Brisbane targeted, with reports a flare was set off inside and pro-Australia Day graffiti sprayed on the walls. Now, while not condoning those actions, the opposition says the results of this poll should put an end to any debate around the public holiday.
What it does is put to bed any sort of conjecture that we shouldn't just celebrate and be proud of our National Day.
Controversy around Australia Day kicked up a notch earlier this month when it was revealed more than 80 local councils across the country had chosen to dump their traditional Australia Day citizenship ceremonies. Now, despite that, the government says it has no plans to change the date. Chris.
Rob Scott live for us there in Canberra. Thank you. Well, day 2 of the Australian Open and the competition schedule is already under fire after the women's first round match only began play after 11 p.m. This is despite the tournament adding an extra day to avoid late night finishes. Kate Massey is there as day 2 gets underway.
Well, it's day 2 of the Australian Open. Already so many fans are through the doors after a late finish on day 1 last night. Scheduling coming under fire again as Aryna Sabalenka was forced to wait until around midnight to start her match. Changes came into effect this year to try and limit the late night finishes, including starting the competition a day earlier. The Australian Open now running for 15 days instead of 14. Day sessions at Rod Laver Arena now just 2 matches instead of 3 and 2 again at night. The late start was sparked by Novak Djokovic needing 4 hours to defeat his 18-year-old opponent. And although Sabalenka started late, she didn't need long to finish the job, wrapping up in 53 minutes. Today, international DJ Red Foo has taken to the court, trying his hand at table tennis, conceding he needs a lot of work to become a pro.
I would need to work on my forehand and get into the hips, to get to the elite. And then the elite's got the spins. They got the spins, and so I need to work on that. But that's why we're here today, and I'm practicing.
Plenty of action down here today, including Alex de Minaur taking on his opponent tonight, Australian favourite. We will bring you those details across the day.
Well, next in 7 News, residents on the Gold Coast wake to find a truck in their home. Donald Trump trumps Republican polls in the final day ahead of caucus. And an Iceland volcano unleashes on a nearby town. The pictures next. A close call. That's how emergency services described the truck almost crashing into a home on the Gold Coast. The driver heard a bang before smoke started spilling from the vehicle. He was forced to jump out of the truck as it began its descent.
I was shocked when I came out, saw the fireys and everything out. So it was a bit of a crazy morning.
It's understood the vehicle's brakes had failed. A group of surfers is lucky to be alive after their boat capsized in rough seas off the Queensland coast. The 7 surfers were returning to the mainland from Lady Elliot Island on the weekend when a wave hit their vessel. After activating a distress beacon, the group spent about 4 hours in the water before being picked up by rescue crews. Opinion polls have Donald Trump in a commanding lead a day out from the Iowa caucus, where Republicans will choose a presidential hopeful. But an Arctic blast is threatening voter turnout, with weather warnings for a below-freezing winter chill. Miley Hogan is there.
As candidates try to convince the people of Iowa to vote for them, they're struggling to steal the attention away from one big competitor, the weather. The state is suffering through an Arctic blast. Tomorrow's caucus day is set to be the coldest on record. The forecast, a predicted low of minus 29 degrees Celsius, with the wind chill minus 42. The weather has forced candidates to cancel events, but they're all back out there for a final push today. Donald Trump in a commanding lead.
Brave the weather and go out and save America, because that's what you're doing. This is really about saving our country.
His closest rivals battling to emerge as the top alternative to the former president.
Just excited that tomorrow's the day. It's go time.
We're going to do well because we've done it right, and our folks are going to turn out.
So the big question is, will the weather affect the turnout and the expected results?
We're just kind of used to this kind of weather, and I think the election's going to have a pretty decent turnout no matter what.
This is the current state of play. The former president in a likely unbeatable position, his closest rivals battling for second place. If the polls are correct, then Donald Trump is on track to smash the Republican record for the largest victory margin in the history of the Iowa caucuses.
Footage has emerged of the moment fountains of molten lava move in on a town in Iceland's southwest. Buildings caught fire after the volcanic eruption on Sunday. Residents of Grindavik forced to evacuate just hours before the seismic activity for the second time since November. Iceland's president has announced that while infrastructure may be under threat, no lives are in danger. And checking finance news now. The local market has dropped in morning trade. The ASX 200 down by 5 points. $1 Australian is buying 66.8 US cents, 97 yen and $1.07 New Zealand. Well, next in 7 News Sport with Matt Carmichael, including the Strikers locked down the last spot in the Big Bash finals, and Novak Djokovic survives first round scares from a teenager at the Australian Open.
Good morning. Steve Smith hopes his move to opener unlocks the next great star of Australian cricket, Cameron Green. Now 34, Smith wants the 24-year-old Green to become Australia's long-term number 4, with his pace bowling and gully fielding worth an extra man.
The catches he takes in there are incredible as well, so we're excited to have him back. It's like having 4 slips. It's a good opportunity for him, and that was part of my reason for wanting to go up the order. It wasn't selfishly just because I wanted to. It was to get Greenie in to bat at 4.
We will hear from Green today before the first test starts against West Indies at Adelaide Oval on Wednesday. The Adelaide Strikers clinched the last Big Bash final spot. David Warner went for 13 in Canberra last night before Lloyd Pope spun out Sydney Thunder with 3 wickets in 4 balls. Chasing 140, the Strikers got lucky with a heavy, battery-filled bail.
He's got a little edge. Sydney Thunder think they have. It's in the bail.
Leading run scorer Matt Short smashed an unbeaten 74, replacing Chris Lynn. Jake Weatherald stepped up again with 47 not out in a 9-wicket thrashing.
We're on a roll now. I think it's 4 or 5 in a row. We're certainly in form, but we lose a couple of players, but there's guys in the sheds that have been waiting, and we know that guys that come in like Popey and Weathers, they've come straight in and done a really good job.
The Strikers will face the Scorchers or Sixers in the knockout. Novak Djokovic survived the longest first-round match of his Grand Slam career at the Australian Open. Djokovic won the first set 6-2 against Dino Prismic before the relentless 18-year-old Croatian fought back to win the second set 7-5.
He's got the error and he's got the set. We've got a match on our hands.
The 10-time Australian Open champion avoided a major upset, winning the final 2 sets, but it took him 4 hours. The Joker blamed illness.
I am a bit under the weather last 4 or 5 days. You can probably judge by my voice. Maybe skip practice tomorrow, tennis practice, and maybe do some light work, gym, jog.
That marathon forced defending women's champion Arina Sabalenka to wait almost till midnight. She dispatched Germany's Ella Seidel 6-love, 6-1. Sydney's Chris O'Connell won a 5-set thriller against Christian Garin, 7-5 in the decider. But Brisbane's Jason Kubler lost his 5th set 10-8 to Colombian Daniel Gallan. The A-League's first Unite round was certainly a success on the pitch. Trailing Newcastle 2-1 with 8 minutes left, Brisbane Roar scored before being awarded a controversial 90th minute penalty.
That is a natural position when you're lunging to block a cross.
Jack Morgan points to the spot.
And the Roar converted to beat the Jets 3-2. Top of the table, Wellington Phoenix continue to fire, defeating the Perth Glory 4-3. But the All-Sydney round didn't attract big crowds, with many complaints that people weren't aware it was happening. Ange Postecoglou's undermanned Tottenham went to Old Trafford and produced another Premier League fight back this morning. The Red Devils led within 3 minutes before Spurs striker Richarlison equalised. Ange's men went behind 2-1 in the first half, only to equalise 50 seconds into the second half.
Arriving with ease, what a goal for Tottenham! Inside a minute of the restart.
Tottenham stay 5th behind Arsenal on goal difference. Manchester United are in 7th. A huge boil-over for the Green Bay Packers against the highly fancied Dallas Cowboys in the NFL wildcard round. The Packers dominated from the outset, going up 21-0 in the first half, keeping up the pace in the second.
Zips it in there, and it's caught for the touchdown. And the route is on in Dallas. Wow.
Winning 48-32, they'll face the winner of today's other wildcard playoff between the LA Rams and Detroit Lions. It's live on 7 Mate. And it can happen to the very best of them. Rory McIlroy was locked at 18 under with Tommy Fleetwood in the Dubai Invitational when he hit a perfect approach to the 14th hole. He 3-putted from there to drop a shot.
Oh my word.
McIlroy was back in front by 18, then he hit his drive straight into the water. Fleetwood won it, and it cost Rory $635,000. I've missed a lot of putts, Rizzo, but never any that are that expensive anyway.
Oh, my word indeed. All right, thanks, Matt.
Mate.
Cheers. Well, next in 7's Morning News, the National Weather Forecast. Well, it's no secret that many Australians love cruising, and this year looks to be even bigger for the industry. A new survey by the Travel and Tourism Forum found 1 in 4 Australians are planning a cruise this year. That is a huge jump compared to last year. 35% of under 35s are thinking about setting sail, countering the myth that cruises are only for older people. It also reveals that over 1 in 4 Aussies are cruise curious, meaning they've never been cruising but are interested in trying it out. Let's take a look at the forecast right across the country today. Extensive thunderstorm activity spans the north of the country, which is blanketed in mid to upper level cloud, enhanced by a monsoon trough through the top end and onto the Cape York Peninsula. In the capitals now, showers developing in Brisbane, 30 degrees. Wet weather for Sydney 24. Melbourne, partly cloudy with 28 degrees. Cloud clearing for Hobart, 23. Adelaide, sunshine, 34 degrees. Perth, mostly sunny and 34 degrees as well. Darwin, windy with heavy rain and 29. And Alice Springs, mostly sunny and a hot 40 degrees. And that is 7 News up to now. We'll keep you up to date throughout the day with our updates. Our next major bulletin is at 4 p.m. I'm Chris Reason. Thanks for your company and have a great day.
Stream 7 News anytime, live and on demand on 7 Plus. And with 7news.com.au, you'll know the news now.